still with us this hour, Bob Bianchi. Bob, this is the most intriguing part of this whole case to me, that Lindsay Clancy's former husband, we have learned and confirmed that he is remarried, but, was married to her at the time. The most remarkable development is that he's going to testify for the defense in favor of Lindsay. He's even gone off and he's filed all these, separate civil suits in her favor as well, talking about how she was over-medicated and, she was this wasn't a new thing. They had been trying to find help about this, pretty much that she was begging for help in the months leading up to this. But it's still, he comes home and finds his 3 children strangled to death. I mean, how unusual is this? In a triple murder case, a triple murder prosecution here of this guy supporting the woman who has murdered his children.
I mean, it's horrible. I mean, I've been doing this all these years. I'm listening to the prosecutor give their statement, and it's just absolutely horrific. It's the worst, and that's why we're covering it, right?
Right,
I mean,
right.
It's the thought of killing your child. The thought, I was thinking of the father of these children, who's their protector, if you will, and sees this, the visual of it, and all the years you've done it, is even as an EMT walking into these scenes, there are certain things that just sting in a way that's great and more heinous and more cruel and horrible, which also feeds the narrative of the defense. This is not a cruel, horrible. This is a nurse who works in pediatrics, who's and like you just brought out, I think it's really important that he is suing her medical providers. He is suing the people. He is supporting her. He is saying she did not get the right treatment. She was on too many and or the wrong meds. I mean, I got to be honest with you, Cody. As a prosecutor, again, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. If I were listening to all of this, and this is the man that knows her, and the person who saw those things around his kids' throats and that they were dead, and the horror of that still supports her because he recognizes her mental health history and the medication issue, and that there's lawsuits going on because of it, that would weigh very heavily on me, that this isn't just a get out kind of scenario. Look at her. She's got a blank look at the courtroom. She's mentally ill. I mean, is there any more you need to say? I hate hearing this, and I know I'm going to get blowback from people. And that guy who keeps tweeting at me is going, "Oh my God, yeah, I'm no liberal, okay? Yeah, I never pled a murder case in my entire career, but I have given 1 or 2 NGIs because I just didn't believe that they should have to face the consequences, and I believe treatment in a lockdown facility was more justice because she wakes up every day knowing." Trust me, when these people are now medicated and they're now compensated, she's living a life sentence. I wrote down here, she lost her mind. She lost her children. She lost her mobility because she jumped out a window. Who does that? A sane person?
Yeah.
Come on, give me a break here.
It's one of those situations, Bob, no matter how it turns out, and I've been talking with people about this, it's not a win-win. This is not one of those situations, for example, like Rex Heuermann, where people were happy, like, he's gone, like, get him, lock him up. Even if she is convicted without an NGI, this is not one of those ones where I'm looking at it like, go, you know what I'm saying? It's just, you got these 3 kids that are lost, and she's lost all this different stuff. It's just one of those, it's a conflicting case here for a lot of people. But the thing about it here with Patrick, Bob, if he gets up there, which I'm sure he will, and tells these jurors that he believes that his wife was not evil. Don't forget, he's publicly, forgiven her for this. He's openly said this. He tells the people, these jurors, that she wasn't evil, but she was profoundly ill. I just feel like that's going to carry so much weight, because who lived closer to her than him? He was in the house for all these years. He went through 2 children, because this happened on the 3rd child, the 8-month-old. He lived with her through the 1st child, the 2nd child, saw everything. Again, she was a nurse. She cared for children. This arguably, to me, makes him the most credible witness to speak on her.
Bingo. And that's the point that when we train trial lawyers the right way, we say it's going to be a battle of the experts. No, it's not. Okay, because the expert's going to say from the state that she was able to appreciate the difference between right and wrong. And the expert for the defense is going to say the opposite. Now, of course, the jurors can look at the credibility of those witnesses. But like other cases I told you, in the end, they're going to want to know from the people closest to them, to the people that were literally in a psychiatric case that saw their day in and day out, knew their baseline, knew who they were as people. Would this father have just left if he had thought that his wife was going to go into some psychotic, situation and kill his children, as opposed to have a mental collapse? So the people that when he gets up there, he is going to support the narrative of the defense expert witness. And the jury, when they're trying to determine between the battle of the experts, will weigh his testimony. And I think it's a game changer for the prosecution and defense. And I wonder, Cody, it's just rhetorically to say it back to you, I shouldn't do it as a guest, but like if any of your fans here or your viewers were prosecutors and had to make this decision, what would your decision be? Would it be to put her in jail? Does that accomplish some societal goal to have her there with murderers and rapist murderers and kidnapping murderers and people that try to kill people on purpose and drug dealers or whatever? Or is she better suited to be in a lockdown facility in a mental health place where she can get treatment? You tell me what you think is the best thing to do.
Exactly.
Prosecutors have to make this tough call.
I don't envy these prosecutors at all, and I sure don't envy whoever will eventually be on this jury, because the tornness between each decision here, that's just going to be insurmountable. Bob, I want to comment on what we just listened to, what they're talking about. The judge excluded a defense's bid asking for testimony from other women who experienced postpartum depression, postpartum psychosis, things of that nature. I'm guessing they wanted this to get the real life people to talk about the real life effects of this disease or affliction, as that attorney just said there in the courtroom. Was this the correct ruling by the judge? Because, I mean, the fact of the matter is, Bob, we're two men sitting here talking about this. We don't fully understand it mentally. We can understand it on paper. Is the judge right, wrong in your eyes? What do you think?
I just wish that you had asked me these questions after he spoke and before the prosecutor did, because right to the jump, right to the beginning, I'm thinking, I wish he got his way. If I were the prosecutor, I may not have objected to this, because I would have done what she did in her argument with every one of them, say, oh, by the way, I'm really sorry for your troubles. Did you ever murder anyone? Did you ever murder 2 people? Did you ever murder 3 people? Thank you. I have no further questions. Next witness. And you'd go through all that to show this is not the typical reaction. But to answer your direct question and to do it in a law school way like we like to, there's an evidence rule called 403. And that's what she just alluded to, where she said that the probative value, in other words, what the value of that evidence is outweighed by its prejudicial effect, undue consumption of time and resources, and a trial within a trial. That's called Rule 403. And the judge, I think, made the right ruling, because what other people have gone through is not relevant. It's what this witness, or this defendant rather, has gone through that is relevant. And I'm not precluding you from bringing the experts who can testify to that. For example, if I have a civil case where somebody's arm was severed in a car accident, I don't get to put witnesses who had their arms cut off in accidents to talk about what it's like. It is within the reasonable thing for even a male. I guess we know this defense lawyer is going to want women. Right. I guess he just told us that on the jury. Yeah. But an expert tells us this. Other people's experiences are too attenuated, stretched outside the facts of this case. I agree with the ruling.
And I guess that's a fair point there, Bob, because, especially with mental health issues, those types of things present very individualistically. It differs case by case with every person you deal with, even if it is the same mental illness that we're talking about. So fair point there. Now, let's take it back to jury selection on the topic of this, though, Bob. Are jurors walking into this courtroom, right, when they get seated, when we get to trial, are they walking into this courtroom with preconceived notions about said postpartum depression, said postpartum psychosis, that both sides will have to overcome in their own respective ways? Because you know how some people like to cast aside, mental health issues, while some are strong advocates of, measures being taken for people to get proper treatment, what have you, for whatever mental health issue it may be. But of course, all of that gets harder and more nuanced when there's death involved, and especially death that involves children. Multiple.
That's the purpose of the voir dire, the questioning of the court. Just like they asked the questions about the police officers. Can you accept the police officer without a preconceived notion? And by the way, just to be clear, because everybody has preconceived notions about postpartum depression, mental health illnesses, or whatever, but the judge will then follow up with and say, but I'm going to instruct you that you are to follow the law as I give it to you and put your personal feelings aside. Would you be able to do that? And if the juror answers the question, yes, they would listen to what the judge charges them the law is and put their personal view of the law aside, then typically the judge is going to let that juror sit there. Now, you may remove them for a peremptory challenge because you don't like that answer as one of the lawyers, but not what they call for-cause challenge. So you get lots of times, I don't believe cops are, well, if I tell you you're supposed to accept the word of a police officer the way you would any witness, would you violate my order and not do that? If you get the judge that puts it that way, most jurors are going to say, or prospective jurors, yeah, I would do that, Judge. I put my opinion aside. So they're going to wait. I think most jurors, in my opinion, from my experience, especially with something that's expert testimony orientated, will put their opinions aside and do it based on what the experts say. I have faith in the system that way.
Absolutely. And Bob, I gotta play both sides here. We're talking about the mental health, how long it takes to get from the restaurant, allegedly sending the husband off, how long it takes to get to the restaurant, to the CVS, then back home, i.e. Premeditating or pre-planning this murder that she was planning, and then just conveniently enough, when the husband is not in the house in that window of time, this is when these murders occurred. It didn't happen when he was at the house. It didn't happen any other day. It happened when you sent him off to go do something. That's going to be an uphill battle for the defense.
No, that's what the prosecutor wants to raise there, and they're valid. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to the prosecutors that they're assessing the case, and based on those facts, they believe that this was a premeditated act. And again, I don't know the evidence, and I don't know the file, and I don't have the box, but from what I understand of this woman's background and the nature of her mental health illness, if she had never had a mental health illness or diagnosis and wasn't on medication, I'd be very suspect. But somebody who is decompensating, and that's the word, it doesn't mean uncompensated. You are compensated and you're decompensating and you're going downward, could very well plot and plan something like this. And that's why the law says you either here you could appreciate the difference between right or wrong. That's what the prosecutor is saying here. But she couldn't conform her conduct to the law is also the other place that the defense can go. So I would just hope that when the state psychiatric expert evaluated her previous medical history, the medication she was on, her acts, and did their own testing, I would assume, that you as a prosecutor, you would have to really convince me. I would be there with my witness, with my expert saying, are you certain she knew what she was doing? Are you certain that she was able to conform her conduct? Because I do not want to put a mentally ill person in prison as opposed to a lockdown mental health facility. And I guess apparently the prosecutors are convinced that their witness is right.
Absolutely. Fair points made there, Bob. We'll have to wait and see, once the jury gets selected and we eventually get into this trial. But Bob, stand by.